All right. Welcome to our first episode back on our rebranded veteran perspective podcast. I also might start uploading the videos because I do all my recording on OBS, like I do with all my videos, and then I extract the audio to upload to Spotify and the other places that my podcast is. So I might start uploading these videos to YouTube. Let me know if you guys want me to do that because I record these like a video, like I'm on camera right now. So I can do that if you guys want me to. Sponsor for today is going to be Dr. Squatch. I am affiliated with Dr. Squatch, which is pretty freaking awesome. So, if you want to save a little bit of money, yes, I am affiliated with them. I will get a little bit of a kickback that will cost you nothing if you go to drsquatch.com/Jeff in AZ81. You will save yourself a little bit of money. And who doesn't like Dr. Squatch? If you haven't used their soap, man, their soap is awesome. Their pine tar soap is my favorite, actually. Used it in the shower today. Now you're thinking about me in the shower. You're welcome. You're welcome for that. So, you are welcome. Today's topic: why I left the teaching profession. Oh, now some of you may have already read the blog post. It's on Beehive. It's been on Beehive for a few days, and it's also been on LinkedIn for a while. But I wanted to lead with this episode. Now I have some ground rules here. I'm not going to use any names of people or school districts or schools. Okay, I'm not going to do that. I'm not here to burn bridges. Okay, because let's be real, I don't need anyone's bridges. Okay, I'm not here to do that. Right, I'm here to tell my side of things and how I felt and why I felt the way I did. I'm not here to badmouth or bring down anyone else. That's not my style. That's not who I am. Okay, it's just not. Uh, I was an educator for almost 14 years, and I was late to the game. I went to college late, right? I joined the army. I did the army thing right out of high school. Um, I didn't think college was for me, and I kind of dabbled in junior college when I was in California. Moved out here to Arizona, started working, met my now wife, and then I ended up at ASU because she was like, "Hey, you need to do something more than what you're doing now. You're meant for more than what you're doing now." And I was like, "Yeah, you're right. I know." And so I went back to school, and I went back to school to become a teacher. And I started teaching, and started with student teaching and all the internships and all that jazz that you do. Get all the fiery hoops they make you jump through to become a teacher, and I loved it. I loved being a teacher, a classroom teacher. Um, and then my first big job was I actually taught online, which I thought was and still do think is one of the most viable forms of education if done right, if done correctly. There's an accountability aspect for a student, parent, and teacher, and the administration and owners. And those of you that are out here where I live in Arizona, charter schools and public schools, they tend to clash sometimes. Even though public charters use the same public funds as public schools, and then public schools say, "Oh, you're stealing our funds." It's like, no, you're not, because they're funded in the same way. We have school choice out here where parents can choose to send their student to any school they want. The only restriction is, does the school they want to send them to outside of district lines have a seat for them? And if they do, if they're outside of district lines, they will not get transportation. That's it. That's really the only restrictions currently, as of me recording this podcast on the 17th of April 2025. That's really it. Other than that, parents can choose to educate their children in any way they want, including homeschooling here in Arizona, as long as they're sending them to school. Which that's another problem for another day. We'll talk about truancy and stuff like that. I'm sure another day, but As far as teaching went, I mean, I loved it. I mean, sure, there were challenges and headaches and stuff like that. I mean, challenging students, but that part was fun. I mean, like I liked the challenging kids. Like they were usually the ones that were the best to work with. They were usually the ones that needed something. They needed something from you, whether it was your attention because they weren't getting it at home, or they needed that challenge academically because they had never had that challenge before with previous educators. So that was fun. Like even online, like you'd call a kid and they'd be like not doing their work. It's like, hey, how come we're not doing this? And then you kind of get to know them a little bit and stuff like that. Like that part was fun. I never had a problem with students like that. My problem in education was with adults. uh, and I learned relatively early in my career, and I think this is because I served in the military, and I'm a pretty decent judge of character, right? And not everyone's the same, of course. Uh, but when I had been in a couple schools and worked under a couple different administrations, and you kind of look at tendencies and go, okay, this is going to go this way, or I think this is going to go that route. And usually, when schools begin to slide downhill, it's never because of the kids. It's never because of the parents. It's never because of the stakeholders. It's because of the leadership. Um, and not because bad choices were made, right? Like, oh, we're going to do testing this way. Those are decisions that need to be made, right? You're trying something different. You're trying to be innovative. That's fine. It's how they treat people in the building, right? How they treat parents, how they interact with teachers, how they interact with students, right? And I'm not saying that those entities need to be coddled all the time because that's not true at all. I've known teachers that need to be told to shut the fuck up, right? Because they don't know what they're talking about. And the things they're doing are bad for kids, right? And leaders have to hold people accountable, right? But you do it in a way where you take them to the side, say, hey, let's back off that, right? Let's talk about that, you and I. If we're doing that in front of the group, teachers are a sensitive bunch. Let's be real, teachers, okay? And, I'm going to call you out too. Teachers are sensitive, right? They say in the teaching profession, don't take it personally, and I think that's bullshit, okay? Teaching is the most personal profession there is, right? Teaching and nursing, right? Like I know a lot of nurses. Teaching and nursing are the two most personal professions there are, and they're also the professions that people tell you not to take it personal. People that tell me not to take teaching personal, fuck off, right? It's children. You're dealing with kids. I'm going to take that personally, right? It's going to happen. So, I'm sorry for the leaders I've had in the past who might listen to this. I probably thought in my brain when you were telling me not to take it personally, fuck off. And I'm not going to apologize for that. That's just not going to happen. Because I believe that. It's my job to take it personally. Because I'm dealing with people, right? I'm dealing with human beings. And that's another part of the leadership aspect. Some leaders, and again, I think I got this from the military. And again, I had great leaders in the Army. Most of my leaders were fantastic in the Army. Some of them not so much, right? And this is where I got this from. Some leaders look at those underneath them as numbers and not as people. And I started seeing that in the teaching profession, where it was like, okay, you see this group of students as test scores, right? You see this group of students as, oh, those are my kids that need to score a certain amount to make sure that our letter grade gets to this point. And that's not okay. That's not okay. Yes, we want our kids to improve. I mean, of course we do, right? But they're human beings, right? We talk about the individualism of education. That's a lie. That's a buzzword, right? we tell teachers to individualize instruction for 35, 40 kids. Good luck. Good luck. There's not one administrator I've ever seen actually demonstrate that. There's not one instructional coach, including myself, I've ever seen demonstrate that. Right? You can put them off into groups, but they're all doing a similar task. Right? You might go around to different groups and you know which students are in which group, and you might pull one student aside and say, hey, I want you to do this. Hey, go back and tell your group that. That's how you can individualize a little bit, right? And challenge certain kids, redirect other kids, right? But you're not doing that every day. It's impossible. You'll never get anything done. You'll never get through the standards, right? That you probably aren't going to get through anyway, because it's an impossible task, right? With state testing, district testing, assemblies, fire drills, active shooter drills, all that bullshit that we all have to do no matter what state you're in, right? And how leadership reacts to that stuff and how they treat people becomes part of the culture of a school. And I started seeing that a little bit when I became an instructional coach, which is the instructional coach position was something that I had always wanted. I had applied for it at a previous school when I taught online. I think I applied for it 3 times and I didn't get it. And I think the 3rd time I didn't get it, I was like, oh, okay, whatever. It's not for me. And like, yes, I was upset. I'll be honest about it. I was like, fuck, man, I thought I was going to get it that time. And I was like, you know what? Whatever. I'll keep teaching history and government, right? I'm going to be the weird history teacher, right? Cool, whatever. And then I had an opportunity to leave online after 10 years, almost 10 years, to leave the online environment, to go back to brick and mortar, a live school, as an instructional coach. Well, it was part instructional coach, part reading interventionist, helping some of our students that needed help with reading. And then that turned into a full-time coaching position. And I was like, okay, cool, this is what I want. Because it's a bridge. In most places, it's a bridge between leadership and the teacher side of the house. Because those are 2 different sides of the house, right? There's an administrative side, there's a teaching side. And those who say there's not are lying to themselves. Like, that's a flat out lie. Like, oh, we're all a family. First off, if your job's telling you that you're a family, run. Unless they're your actual family, they're not your family. So stop doing that. Leaders, stop doing that. Stop telling your employees that we're all family, because they're not your family and they don't want to be your family. So stop doing that. It's weird. So when I became an instructional coach, I kind of got a look into that leadership side of things, good and bad. I had been a leader in the Army somewhat, as a sergeant. I was like, okay, cool. Some of those skills transfer over. They did when I was in the classroom, when I was teaching online anyway. And they definitely did as an instructional coach. You have to deal with conflict, adult to adult conflict, right? And sometimes that conflict cannot be resolved, right? I had conflict with adults that could not be resolved without someone else getting involved in mediation, right? And that's okay. That happens, right? And, you get over that. And then you move on for it, because I'm there for kids. I'm there to help teachers improve, to help students learn, right? That's my existence as a coach. The bad side of being an instructional coach, and those of you that have been in that position before, you guys could agree or disagree with me. It's all based off of your own individual experiences. My experience was you become like a utility player in baseball. When shit hits the fan, get the instructional coach to fix it. When the principals and the assistant principals are gone from campus, the instructional coach becomes the principal. And I was like, what the fuck? And that stuff you kind of learn on the fly, right? And that stuff didn't necessarily bother me. I just wasn't prepared for it. And that's all fine and well and good. And then it's, oh, Jeff, go take over this class halfway through the day. Hey, I need you to sub in this class for a week when I'm trying to work on a project for the instructional coaches for the district. And it's, again, the experiences are different depending on how districts do things. And I can only speak to my experience, but it just wasn't a good thing. Coaching is supposed to be protected, in my opinion. If you want your teachers to truly grow, you need your coaches and your principals to be on the same page, to not have a toxic relationship with one another. And in my experience, that toxic relationship became with my particular leader where she didn't want me to be a coach. She was like, no, I'm sticking you in a classroom and you won't be a coach next year. With no reason given. and there were lies told to me, and I do not handle that well. I'll be the first one to tell anyone that. I don't think a lot of people do. And my wife will tell you that I did not handle that well at all. A lot of things happened internally. Some things came up and came out. Like they came out at home. They came out inside my classroom, not around kids or anything like that. In terms of stuff that I had maybe buried down, in terms of my own PTSD, it triggered a lot of things for me. Toxicity is a trigger for me in particular. And while I've dealt with toxic leaders in the past, it went to a level that knocked me over the edge, right? To where I had to walk away, to where I had to send an email to HR and say, I I cannot be here, right? This is triggering my PTSD. This, and this is going on. If you want to know what those things are, we'll talk about that another time. If you guys want to know more about my PTSD, I'm open to talking about some of it, not all of it. I'll tell you what the line is. And I made a decision I never thought that I would make and to give the HR team that I worked with credit, they had the conversation with me. They're like, hey, short-term disability, this is what you'll get, PTO that you have, yada, yada, yada. And then we reached a point where we were talking about reasonable accommodations, and they were like, we cannot reasonably accommodate you because you cannot be in a classroom. And I was like, wow, that sucks. And they weren't, and like that's what it was, right? And I left. That was the end at that time of me being a teacher, and that was I went on leave in July of 2025. I'm sorry, 2024, and that was October. So 6 months, 3 months. Sorry, and I stayed on short term as long as I could, and then that was it. And and I was seeking extra therapy, and that hurt. That hurt because I had dedicated my whole life to teaching, to helping kids, to helping adults. Some who didn't even want my help, kids and adults. uh, and then it was gone. And like it was gone, and it felt like no one cared. And I didn't need like accolades or applause or anything like that. Wasn't like that, but it was something I had worked so hard to attain, it wasn't a job, it was a career, right? And then it was gone. That was that. Um, and I've kind of been, and like, I went home, and my wife came home because she worked at the same school I did. She came home that night, and we talked, and she goes, "Hey, it's time to get with the VA because this isn't you. This isn't normal." And so we've worked on upping my rating. Um, Still a process. It's still working on it. Because it's it's been determined, at least on the medical side, that I cannot work in the regular work environment. So I never thought that would happen to me, but maybe it was a good thing that it did because I could work on myself. I could stay home. I could do shit like this, right? um, I started writing more. I've published books, um, two books of poems, and one book on the three branches of government, as well as a nonfiction book as well. Uh, yeah, I mean, toxic leadership in education can bring a lot of things down, not just individually. It can tear a school apart. Because when I left, and I'm not saying it's because I left, what I'm saying is there were certain communications from a lot of different individuals in a lot of different positions were like, it's not good. It brought down morale. It shifts the focus of teachers from teaching to surviving. And that becomes a huge problem in schools because it changes the focus of schools. And it changes how adults act inside of an institution, good and bad. Uh, some adults and some teachers are in schools that should not be around kids. Period. They shouldn't be teaching. And y'all say that straight up. There are teachers that should not be teaching. And I'm not going to apologize for that statement because it's true and it's because I believe it. They might show up physically, and in the world of education right now, if you're a body in a classroom, you get praised for it. Oh, thank you for being here. It's your fucking job. You better be there. Right? But there's a lot of people that show up physically, but they lack passion. They have no integrity. They have no work ethic. They don't contribute. They skip PDs. Uh, it could be an administrator who cares about themselves more than their staff. Uh, it could be a board member who's out to get reelected more than they're out to improve the district that they oversee. It could be an assistant superintendent who's trying to be a superintendent instead, and there's conflict between the policies and what's right, because those can be two very different things, right? Not every adult in education needs to be perfect. That's an unrealistic expectation. Everyone has bad days. The problem in education with the adults in education is that I think a lot of people lost sight why they left, why they entered the profession in the first place, and why they stayed. And one person's apathy, one person's lack of integrity, one person's meanness, for lack of a better word, can bring down an entire institution. It could bring it all down. I've seen it happen. I've watched it happen. It can bring it all down. And who does that impact? Fuck the adults. It impacts little people, young minds that we are supposed to protect and that we are supposed to educate. Now, here's the interesting part about all this. I'm actually happier after leaving. At first, I wasn't. I cried. I'm man enough to admit it. I cried when I left teaching. It was my, I thought it was my identity, was being at a school, whether it was online, whether it was brick and mortar. And I cared deeply about it. I loved it. Right? Like, I loved being at school. I loved teaching. I loved interacting with kids. I loved talking to parents. Right? Even when I was calling home when a kid was being a dick, they're like, yo, your kid's being a dick. Parents be like, oh, yeah? And then I'd be like, yeah. What are we going to do about it? Love that shit. But when I left, I get to be creative, right? I'm here right now doing a podcast talking about what's wrong with education. You think I could get away with this shit while I was still teaching? Fuck no. Fuck no. Would I have tried? Hell yeah. Did I? Hell yeah. For those of you that know me, hell yeah. I could still teach, but in a different way, right? I could still be part of the solution. I just got to find a way to get paid. Sign up for my blog so I can get ad revenue. It's free. Or buy my products in my store. Come on, give me your money. But I can be an advocate for change, and that's teaching. I've been offered by educators in higher education and in public schools, in your K through 12 schools, who've asked me to come to classrooms. I haven't done it yet. So I think I'm doing something right. Or I made an impact on enough people when I was there to where people still look at me and say, hey, that guy was A, good at what he did. He's honest. He has integrity. And I'm comfortable enough to invite him to either my Zoom meeting or into my classroom, as long as he doesn't call anyone a dick. Which I won't in that particular setting. So, like, if I could mentor people, if I could be engaged in some way, if I can be an advocate for some sort of policy, kind of like I am now, then I'm still teaching. I'm still part of education in some way. And that makes me happy. And I hope people get to listen to this particular podcast and see that and kind of understand that. So what are some solutions to fixing education? Because I'm a solutions-oriented person, right? I'm not going to sit here and bitch, moan, and complain without talking about solutions. I'll tell you about the problem, but I'm also going to tell you about how to fix it. Because my story is not unique. There's teachers that leave education every day, every year. Thousands of them. Okay? We have to hold our leaders accountable. Principals, assistant principals, superintendents, board members, right? The well-being of teachers and students have to be prioritized. Okay? They need to listen, adapt, and lead with integrity. They're not there to stomp around campus like some fascist, right? They're there to stomp around campus to smile, check in on their teachers, say, hey, do you need me to pick up something from the printer for you? Talk to the parent, right? Hold community events, right? And smile at kids and talk to students. That's your fucking job. Do your goddamn job. I'm tired of seeing schools with principals that have a scowl on their goddamn face. Stop fucking doing that. Knock it off. Fostering a positive culture. That is your job. Schools are a place of collaboration and respect. And that leads to being an institution of support. If your leadership is toxic, none of that occurs. If you're not holding community events at a minimum monthly, you're not a place of collaboration. You're not a place of respect. You're not a place of support. And that's on leadership directly. And I'm not talking about district events. I'm talking about individual school events. It's not that fucking hard. It's not that hard. Hold an event in the gym. Oh, it's hot outside. These kids don't care, right? Especially in our socioeconomic challenged neighborhoods. Hold a goddamn event in the gym. It ain't that hard. Valuing educators and not just teachers. My IAs, who I love very much. Teachers, IAs, aides. Fair compensation. Professional development, and that means actually showing up to it, teachers, and then actually using that shit in your classroom. Okay, because I'm tired of that too. As someone who developed professional development, gave professional development, and then watched my teachers not use what we learned in professional development, no. No, you can't be valued if you're not going to take the value, right? You also need a voice in what you're learning. Because I know, as someone who's been in professional development going, why the fuck am I sitting in here? I don't even teach this class, right? There has to be value. You guys are the backbone of education, but you have to act like it. We've been in a weird spot in education where, yes, we have teachers that have experience, right? But those are some of the hardest teachers to teach. Those are some of the hardest teachers to get to, right? In terms of leadership and being an instructional coach, because they think they know everything. Look at your test scores. No, you don't. No, you don't. Oh, I have the best test scores of the school. It's still 35% reading, 28% writing, or whatever the hell it is. No, you don't. When you're the first teacher to push back vocally on a technology initiative, what's the new teacher sitting next to you going to do? They're going to push back too. Because you, the veteran teacher, didn't want to fucking do something different. Stop doing that shit. Stop doing it. You're the problem. You're the problem. Stop being the problem. Be the solution. Be the first teacher to go, yeah, let's do that. Like, hey, can we work together on that? With the new teacher. Like, hey, I'm not too familiar with that form of technology. Can we work together on that? Hell yeah. Let's do that together. Let's do a co-unit together. Let's do an intradisciplinary unit together. Be the solution, not the problem. Because when the experienced teachers are the problem, in a world of education where there are so few experienced teachers, that's why test scores are low. Tell me I'm wrong. Because I will laugh at you and I'll be like, no, I'm not. Because I'm right. You guys have to recommit to the mission. If you want to be compensated fairly and more so, act like it. Act like it. It's plain and simple. And I'm not going to apologize for this because I was a teacher. Act like it. You got to recommit to the mission. The mission is educating kids, right? One of our future episodes and one of my other blogs is about what's wrong with our education system in a deeper sense and why our current education system is failing. And this is the big part of it. Education is a collective effort. 1/3 of the building can't show up ready to work while the other 2/3 phones it in. Doesn't work that way. Because you know who suffers? Kids. And that includes parents. I'm talking to you too, parents. When a teacher fucking emails you about your kid being a dingleberry in class, respond to the email. When your school district has a texting service where you can get texts from the school about school events and get updates from teachers about classroom stuff going on and testing calendars, and then you say, well, I didn't know what was going on. Fuck you. That's your fault. That's your fault. You're a stakeholder, but stakeholders have responsibilities too, parents. Own up. Be involved. And don't just be involved when there's something wrong. Be involved when there's something good. Right? When little Timmy and when little Johnny gets a 4 on their report card or an A on their report card, call the teacher and say, hey, I just got his report card. This is awesome. Thank you for helping him. Right? When Janice gets her report card and she's gotten C's and D's and she has a B all of a sudden in her math class, call that teacher and go, hey, hell yeah. What happened? How do we get this into other classes? Call for the good shit too, not just the bad shit. It makes a difference, parents. You're part of it too. Remember, stakeholders have to be involved too. Yeah, I'm a parent too. And I can guarantee you that my kids' schools know that I call and I email for the good and for the bad. I guarantee it. So that recommitting to the mission, parents, you're one of the biggest parts of that. So I need you guys involved too. Leaving teaching was hard for me. It was hard. But probably the best thing I've ever done, because I could sit here and make a podcast where I cuss at all of you and tell you to fucking get your shit together. But it taught me lessons about myself that I'm still learning, right? Like, I'm not fixed, right? There's still things that I can't do, that I won't do because it triggers me. I don't leave the house too much. If y'all want to communicate with me, comment on the podcast or the blog. If you're considering leaving teaching, there's a whole world out there, right? That I'm still learning about, right? I'm doing this, right? And I've made content before, and I'm still making content, doing my video game stuff. For those of you that know about that, I've dove deeper into Canva. Imagine diving deeper into Canva after I taught, right? That's crazy, right? Video creation stuff, blogging. I've gotten big into affiliate marketing, trying to learn how to make money off that. Don't worry, I'll get you guys to buy something. Hell, to buy something off. But what I'm saying is to my teachers and my principal friends out there, because yes, while I destroy toxic leadership, I know some good leaders too. One of my very, very best friends, she's the best leader I ever had. She's also my former history teacher. Yeah, she's one of my best friends. I might not be one of her best friends, but she's one of my best friends. There are good leaders out there. If you ever decide to leave education, there's a whole world out there that's just waiting for you to discover. We still have something to offer, right? There's that old saying that's terrible, those that can't do, teach. And I've always said that who taught those that can do, right? We have a skill set that is special. Still special, right? Research skills, critical thinking skills, the ability to multitask, right? Like, I'm recording this blog right now. I'm recording this podcast right now while writing a blog. And people say men can't multitask. Fuck off. So that's that. That is our first episode under our rebrand, Veteran Perspectives. Why I left the teaching profession and why I'm happier for it. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments. Remember our sponsor, Dr. Squatch. Save you some money on soap products, facial products. I think they have shaving products now too. I don't know. I have a beard, so be a man, grow a beard. but if you want to save some money, remember drsquatch.com/JeffandAZ81. You'll save $10 on a $20 order. That's what we have going on right now, and then I get a little kickback as well. You don't pay any extra for that. That's just for me. But let me know what you guys think about the episode. Make sure you guys subscribe to the blog and the podcast, completely free to do so. There is no paywall. I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. I hope you guys have a great day. Thanks.